Okay guys, in this video we are going to start looking at another method of solving quadratic equations, and this time this method is called completing the square. Okay, so what does this look like? So we've got x squared minus 6x equals to 9. The first thing you need to make sure, if you remember when we were solving quadratic equations by factoring, you always wanted to have a 0 on the right hand side. Here it's actually completely not the case. Actually, what you want is your x squared term and the x term on the left hand side, and everything else should be on the right hand side. So all the numbers should be moved to the right hand side if they're not already there. In this case, they are. Okay, so once that's the case, then what you do is you look at the coefficient of x, you look at the number in front of x. And it is very important to note that if it's negative, that is going to be included in that number. So if it's minus 6, the number you're looking for is the negative 6, okay? The next thing what you do is you divide by 2. So divided by 2, because if you want a perfect square trinomial, this part should be 2 times some number times x. So you're looking for what is that number. And if you divide it by 2, that number would be negative 3. And negative 3 multiplied by 2 would be negative 6, right? Okay, and then you want to make it a perfect square. So what should then be the other part? So it should be x squared minus or plus 2ax plus a squared. So what is this number squared? So square this number, square. So negative 3 squared. Now be very careful when you square a negative. That's actually a positive. So that'll be 9. So we would need to add 9 to both sides, okay, to make the left hand side a perfect square. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we've got x squared minus 6x. We're going to add 9 to the left hand side, but also add 9 to the right hand side. So you cannot just add 9 to one side and not the other side. Then the equation is not going to be balanced, right? You might have a wrong situation, right? Okay, so what happens to this guy on the left? Now that's a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so what does that mean? It's a squared of something. That something is x. Then what you do is, remember when you were dividing by 2 and you got some number? We got negative 3. That number would be right here, including the minus. Okay, so this is going to be minus 3. And on the other side, we've got 18. Okay, so just to check, imagine that x minus 3 is multiplied by itself. If you were to FOIL it, what will happen? So x times x is x squared, then minus 3x, another minus 3x, and then plus 9. And now we can see that these two simplify to negative 6x. And that means that this was correct. So this is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so I checked that. Now I'm going to continue solving it. So to continue solving it, you need to know something called the square root property. So you're trying to get rid of the square right here because you're trying to solve this for x. How do you get rid of a square? You might know that you need to take the square root. So when you take the square root of the left-hand side, the square is going to cancel. When you take the square root of the right-hand side, that's going to be square root of whatever that number is. So you're taking square root here, and you're taking square root of the other side. Okay, however, the square root property says that there is not just one answer here. It's not just going to be square root of 18, but it's actually going to be plus minus square root of 18. Why is that? Well, if you square this, so squaring a square root will just give you 18. But squaring of a negative square root will also give you an 18, because negative and negative, when you multiply, it becomes a positive. So here we actually have two answers. And then finally, we would add 3 to both sides. And that's going to give me x equals 3 plus minus square root of 18. Now, if you're picky, you might have to simplify the roots. So if it's not required, you don't have to do it, but you can think of 18 as 9 times 2. So when you pull 9 out of the square root, that's actually 3. So that would be 3 square root of 2. But you can also leave it as square root of 18 and only simplify it if needed. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can fill this out. So this is x minus 3 squared. On the other side, we got 18. And then solving by square root of root property is going to be 3 plus square root of 18, and then 3 minus square root of 18. So let's see if it takes that. Yep, it's fine. And then, of course, like I said, you can also simplify, and that should also accept it. So both answers should be accepted. Yep.